We ready?
Waiting on it. Get her going.
The August 7th meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustment is called to order. It was submittal of exhibits.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jason Halterman, Assistant Director of Planning and Zoning. I would like to submit the following exhibits for tonight's record. They are the Platte County Zoning Order of 1990 as amended, the Platte County Subdivision Regulations of 1992 as amended, the Platte County Land Use Plan, Platte County Roads Master Plan, all PowerPoint presentations with aerial maps, site plans, and plats shown here tonight, as well as the Board of Zoning Adjustment bylaw.
Thank you.
We'll move right along to agenda item 3 is an appeal of a zoning violation stop order submitted by Evolution Technology LLC at 19500 Northwest Humphreys Road on approximately 4 acres. Start out with our aerial view and subject properties and surrounding zonings to get your bearings. We are just south of Platte City here. This area is zoned not industrial. There's a small patch of plant industrial. There's R7 is a predominant zoning, which is single family high density. You have the Seven Bridges subdivision to the southeast of this property. You have some real estate zoning and some R80 zoning in the area, as well as agricultural. Our land use plan for this area calls for future plan of single family high density in its entire area. Just to give you a little background on that. Now, this is a close-up view of the property. You can see this is a power substation owned by Northwest Electric Power Co-op. It currently uses this power substation, and sometime in early May, our office received a complaint about the installation of a Bitcoin farm on this property. Staff investigated and confirmed that they were indeed installing this Bitcoin farm. On May 7th, 2024, Northwest Electric Power Cooperative was issued a zoning violation stop order. This property is currently zoned agricultural, which does not allow this type of use or the permitted use. No building permits were applied for, obtained prior to construction of the Bitcoin farm. Some background: the property owner, it is Northwest Electric Power Cooperative, Inc. They were issued the stop order for placing the structures and operating a data center consisting of Bitcoin mining operations without obtaining the necessary permits or approvals from Planning and Zoning Department. Evolution Technology LLC is leasee of this property. They are appealing that stop order and the determination of the use of the violation of the zoning order and the adopted building code. Now, this is Article 7, Section 400.730 of our zoning order, which deals with appeals. The first one says appeals to the Board of Zoning Adjustment may be taken by any owner, leasee, or tenant of land, or by a public officer, department, board, or bureau affected by any decision of an administrative official. In this case, the Planning and Zoning Department is an administrative official. Within a period, such appeal shall not be taken within a period more than 3 months in the manner provided by the rules of the board. So we are the administrative official. They are appealing this decision. So if you're like me, wasn't real positive what a Bitcoin farm was. So this is some background on what it actually is. Bitcoin is a type of a digital currency, which is a record of transactions maintained, and the new units of currency are generated by computational solution of mathematical problems. So it's just a long mathematical problem. It generates these computational solutions of these problems and referred to as blockchains. So you may hear blockchains talked about tonight. The goal of a Bitcoin mining operation is to create these blockchains, which are then sold on the Bitcoin market. Bitcoin farm is a space where computer equipment is stored with central cooling or air conditioning systems, preventing these computers from overheating and getting damaged. And they typically operate 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They do use a lot of power to maintain the constant operation. There's a constant humming noise that is produced by these computers, and the fans used to keep them cool. And this particular farm consists of 5 shipping containers that have been mounted to anchored piers, and the containers are open on one side. And we received complaints from nearby neighbors about constant noise. We were able to verify this. You can hear this Bitcoin farm about a half mile away on the Humphreys Access boat ramp, a half mile to the west. And if we travel down there, we can hear it. It's just a constant hum. The noise does seem to fluctuate with changes in weather or other environmental conditions. The neighbors indicate it's worse at night. When other ambient noises die down, you don't hear the hum of the maybe necessarily interstate or whatever, or the highways or construction equipment, but you can hear the constant hum of these machines. On May 13th, Evolution Technology filed an application for appeal. In support of their request, they state, property owner, Northwest Electric Power Cooperative, Inc., principally uses the subject property to distribute electricity to members of its electric cooperative, which is Black Clay Electric Cooperative, Inc. An electric cooperative is an electric utility business that provides electric service to its members. Membership to the electric cooperative is open to the general public. Public service and utilities are a permitted use in the ag zoning district, and the principal use of the subject property as an electric cooperative is therefore a permitted use under the zoning regulations. They also state the applicant, Evolution Technology, is a member of Black Clay Electric Cooperative. It subleased 0.4 acres of the subject property to digitally mine blockchain on computers, which are housed in 5 containers located on the property. Blockchain ultimately formed digital bitcoins, an electronic form of currency. In addition to the containers, the applicant utilizes 2 transformers as part of its blockchain mining operation. And they also state the stop order incorrectly describes the applicant's blockchain mining operation as a data center. While this term is not defined in the zoning regulations, the general definition is as follows: a facility that centralizes an organization's IT operations and equipment for the purpose of storing, processing, and disseminating data and applications. The applicant's blockchain mining operation does not disseminate any data, and it simply creates new bitcoins. As such, it cannot be classified as a data center. And lastly, they state the blockchain mining operation on the subject property is subordinate to the principal use as a permissible electrical cooperative. Mining operation would not exist but for the public utility, which is the electric cooperative, on the subject property. As such, the applicant's blockchain mining operation, the permitted accessory use of the subject property. The applicant's blockchain mining operation is an incidental customary use in connection with the principal public utility use of the property. As such, it is an accessory use of the subject property permitted as a matter of right per section 400.130 of section B10 of the zoning regulations. So we hear all that, and staff's response is we disagree that it is an accessory use for sure. Now it is used as a substation, and it distributes to Black Clay. Northwest Electric is a public utility. Like all public utilities, it's regulated by the Public Service Commission. They have certain exemptions from local zoning laws, and those for uses of the PSC. And no records have been provided or produced indicating that the Public Service Commission has expanded utility uses to include Bitcoin farming. Black County zoning order does list as a permitted use in all zoning districts, public utilities, public service or utility uses. And the definition of public service or utility use is as follows: a facility, building, easement, right of way, or improvement which is used to provide or accommodate the transportation, distribution, delivery of public utilities such as gas, water, electricity, telephones, and sewer, but excluding communication towers as defined in Article 3, Section 400.440 of this order to the general public. A Bitcoin farm, in its opinion of staff, has no role in the transportation or distribution of electricity. They are a consumer of electricity, no different from any other consumer of the public utility. And we reject that idea that it's accessory to the public utility use. I mean, all industrial operations would state that they'd like to be located right next to the reliable electricity is critically important, and yet they locate industrial zoned areas that are more appropriate and they attain necessary building permits to do so. We also have a building code that requires building permits for construction, and that states the construction, reconstruction, renovation, remodeling, removing, demolition, structural alteration, or change in use of a building or a structure affixed to the ground. And these storage containers to house these computers are considered a structure. We issue building permits for structures. Public utilities are not exempted from obtaining building permits for structures. As far as their term, the term data center and the stop work order, we don't see that is problematic. Data center or Bitcoin farm, neither one of those terms is defined in our zoning order, and neither is listed as an envisioned under ag either. Planned industrial is a zone where a data center or Bitcoin farm would be appropriate, and in our opinion, it's semantic argument. It should not be grounds for dismissal of our code violation. To summarize it, Evolution Technology is appealing this decision of the zoning violation stop order. Article 7, Section 400.730 gives this board the authority to hear this appeal. The determination of an administrative official in this case, that is the Planning and Zoning Department. Staff is available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. There are questions of staff?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Have they complied with the stop operation order?
They have not stopped. They are still running.
Okay.
But which is all right because they're under appeal.
They are under appeal, so that stays until the appeals heard, it stays the execution of the stop order, but they are still up and running, yes.
And irregardless of the building permit issue, I mean, you have operational control over the operations. I mean, what's going on would have to be a permitted use in the ag or RE, I guess it'd be the RE district.
Well, the property's owned ag.
Ag.
Yeah. And they would need building permit or a special use permit approval potentially, which is going to be problematic because this board knows a lot about building setbacks. Building setbacks in the ag district for that current ag zoning, you got to be 100 feet off your front property line, 100 off of each side for an accessory structure. They don't meet those setbacks now. Might have to come back and get variances for those requirements at some point. But, I'm not positive they meet the rear yard setback of 50 feet either. They haven't supplied a site plan or anything. So we require a site plan for a building permit. So it shows us a setback requirement.
Are there other questions of staff? Should we potentially try and swear everybody in at one point, or do you
When
want
they
to
come up.
Okay, you want to do that one-on-one? Okay, so the way this works is we'll hear from the applicant first, and then we'll hear from other people in the audience. So assuming the applicant or the representatives present, and then I might need a little.
Yeah, I can.
I'm gonna
Okay.
look at that.
Look at you, fancy.
Yeah, well, you see,
Let's see if it works. You wrote it down.
that assumes he'll have to tell us.
Oh, you're logging in. Yep, it will.
Is everything working?
Yep.
Oh, you might please state your name and address.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Chris Maddox. I'm an attorney at Rouse Fretz White Goss, office address of 4510 Bellevue Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri, 64111. Here tonight on behalf of the applicant. May I reposition the microphone?
Well, we're going to swear you in first.
Oh, of course.
So please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
And I apologize. I'm fighting a bit of a head cold, so I have a hard time hearing tonight. So if I ask you to repeat a question, it's only because I'm partially deaf right now. So I want to thank staff for their overview. I think that accurately summarizes the history, the staff's position, as well as our position of this appeal. So this subject property is on approximately 4 acres. It's in an ag district. It's owned by Northwest Electric Power Cooperative. And in 2024, there was a lease agreement entered into between Northwest Power Electric Cooperative and my client, Evolution Technologies. And the purpose of that lease was to co-locate a Bitcoin mining operation next to a power substation. So we did receive the May 7th, 2024 stop work order alleging 3 specific violations, and we'll address each of these violations in turn. But before we do, I think it's helpful to understand a little bit about rural electric co-ops and how they operate. I've done some work representing other rural electric cooperatives in other states in administrative hearings. And I think it's important to point out, as in evidence, I believe, is one of 3 exhibits. The first one being a printout from Northwest Electric Co-op's page, kind of describing the 3-tiered electric co-op structure as it operates here in Missouri. At the retail level, there's the distribution co-ops that sell retail electric power to everyday users, homeowners, businesses. At the wholesale level, you have distribution co-ops who distribute electricity across the grid. And as part of that process, they have to manage the load. If demand shuts off for a city, for whatever reason, you got some big industrial users and they go offline, these big distribution co-ops have to manage that load. And one of the ways that these distribution co-ops have figured out how to do that is through the co-location of very energy intensive uses like Bitcoin mining. I have some other exhibits that will describe in other detail why this is an important piece to this case. And it really explains the kind of the early adoption of this in the state of Missouri, that the co-location of these Bitcoin mining operations is really, it's a management tool used by some of these electric co-ops to manage the grid. But turning back to the violations, the first violation alleges that this property is being used as a data center. And as such, it's not a permitted use in an ag district. As we pointed out in our appeal letter, that the term data center is not used or defined in the zoning order, but there are other uses that are permitted by right in an ag district. Specifically, the substation use is permitted by right, as are accessory uses. So to the extent that the Bitcoin mining operation qualifies as an accessory use to the substation use, then it is a permitted use by right in an ag district. So here's a definition of the public service or utility use. Again, it involves, as pointed out by staff, the distribution and transmission of electricity. Obviously, the data center use or the Bitcoin mining use does not fall into that public service utility use, but it does qualify as an accessory use. And that is a use which is clearly incidental, subordinate, and customary in connection with the principal use. And again, here, the Bitcoin mining operation would not exist but for the substation. So it would be difficult to classify the Bitcoin use as a principal use or a primary use that is a data center when that could not exist outside of the fact that it's co-located with a utility substation. And so then we have to ask, well, is there any information or insight that we can get to help us understand what is incidental, subordinate, or customary? There is some case law on this point. A use is customarily incidental even if it is not universally present on other sites. That means that we don't have to have a Bitcoin mining operation at every substation. But if the industry has started to adopt that as an industry standard to manage the grid and the power load, then that must be considered in terms of determining whether or not this is customarily incidental to the substation use. And then also in evidence are two news articles, one of which I've excerpted here, which talks about Ameren, the largest for-profit utility provider in the state of Missouri. They have themselves started co-locating Bitcoin mining operations next to generation and transmission substations. And so if a utility provider itself is doing this, I think that's further evidence that this is in fact an accessory use. Obviously here we have a little bit different situation. When you get into the rural electric co-ops, they subcontract that service through other parties to provide that Bitcoin data mining process because they're just not sophisticated. They don't have the scale, the money, the investment, the know-how to do it themselves. But Ameren UE has already started co-locating Bitcoin mining operations as accessory uses to power substations. So as we can see, Evolution's lease of a portion of the property to co-locate its mining operation is a permitted accessory use to the principal public utility use, which is also permitted by right. The second violation in the zoning order alleged any condition conducive to the breeding of rodents or insects or other dangerous, noxious, injurious, or objectionable conditions. I didn't see where staff spent much time on this point. There is a legal principle here. My Latin's a little rusty, but it's essentially that when you have a list of things, and before that list you have and that list describes something that's very specific, and then you kind of generalize at the end. The generalized words relate back to and really are examples of the specific things that were noted at the beginning. And so when we talk about conditions that are conducive to the breeding of rodents or insects, and then we get into these other ideas of something that's noxious, injurious, or a hazard to the public health, all of those words, whether something's a hazard to public health, has to relate back to an understanding of, does it breed rodents or insects? Does it create a public health concern? Obviously, this specific use, either the substation use or the accessory Bitcoin mining use, there's no food, there's no trash, there's rarely ever employees on site. There's nothing, there's no standing water. There's nothing that would be conducive to the breeding of insects, rodents. And so I think that, again, this specific violation is not found here at the subject property. Yeah, this slide, again, just explains what I went over. Under rules of statutory construction, those catch-all meanings really have to relate back to the specific words that they related to. Elsewhere in the zoning and development code, there were, in this section specifically, there are other violations that could have been cited, but they weren't. Restrictions on sound levels could have been cited, but they weren't. Vibration limits were not cited. Smoke and particulate matter or odor, none of that was cited. And so, again, the catch-all in the code provision cited by the county cannot be interpreted as referring to these other items that are specifically addressed elsewhere in the county's code. So again, if there are no insects, rodents, mice, any hazards to public health in that context, then that violation should be struck. The third alleged violation is the building permit, and there was some discussion by staff on this point. A building permit is required for the construction, reconstruction, renovation, remodeling, moving, demolition, structural alteration, or change in the use of a building or structure affixed into the ground. This goes back to, I think, just a traditional analysis of what is real property and what is personal property. Real property is something that is permanently affixed into the ground with the intent that it remain there. Buildings, any structures, sheds, all of those qualify obviously as real property. But equipment is not real property. It's not taxed as such. It's assessed as business personal property. And in the accessory use that we're talking about here tonight in the Bitcoin mining consists of a movable shipping container, computer equipment, fans, and what you'll see photos of a temporary sound barrier, all of which is personal property that is not permanently affixed to the ground. And no building permit can be required for personal property. You don't need a building permit for a trailer. You don't need a building permit for computer equipment. And so I think that this third violation also falls short of really applying to the facts of this case. Here we've got the county's own photographic evidence. I think you can see again that these are just shipping containers open on one side as described by the staff, and again are not fixtures and do not constitute real property under Missouri law. The next few slides just kind of show some of the current site conditions. I think staff's photos may have been taken a month or two ago in preparation for an earlier hearing. We have done some work to mitigate what we really feel like is the driving cause of why we're here tonight. There was some discussion by staff of the noise that's generated by this project. And the Bitcoin mining operation does involve the use of computers and fans that do overheat. And as a result, they do need cooling equipment to help prevent that from happening. And so the applicant, while they have not, to the commissioner's point, ceased operations because they are allowed to continue operations while they have an appeal pending, they have taken affirmative steps to try to mitigate the potential impact of this development nonetheless. And so as you can see, it's kind of far off, but we'll get closer pictures here. They've erected a temporary sound barrier structure, which is intended to reduce the impact of ambient noise that may originate from the site. And here's a video, if I can get it to play, of kind of entering into the site. You approach the substation, and then in the distance, you have the data center. I'm sorry, not the Bitcoin mining operation. that's it on that. And then we did obtain some decibel readings, using technology to determine what is the impact of the Bitcoin mining to the ambient noise in the area. We first did readings when the temporary structure, the noise canceling wall was 50% complete, and then we did it again when it was 100% complete. These readings on the left were from today, I believe. You can see from all the different points, we start on the top right and we move down to the south and then to the west. The decibel readings initially, when the wall was only partially constructed, were about 50 to 52 decibels, mostly lower than that, which is part of the reason why I think we weren't cited for a noise violation under the county's code. But regardless, we want to be good neighbors. We want this project to work and to work for everyone involved, including the neighbors. And so to mitigate the impact of that noise, today's decibel readings do show fairly large decreases in the decibel readings, to the point where we're barely over 50 at the location right here where my cursor is. I do want to point out that again, these Bitcoin mining operations are very energy intensive. They draw about 5 megawatts of electricity per month. That's large enough to service some small cities, and it generates about $10,000 in utility tax revenue to the county each month. Again, this project would not exist if it weren't beneficial to the real use here, which is an electric substation. The electric utilities use this not only as a tool, again, to sell electricity as part of the grid, but it also helps them, again, manage their demand, their loads, and create a steady volume so that they can continue to build out their infrastructure in a responsible way. So I think that's all I have for tonight. I would ask that this board overturn the stop order on the grounds that the data mining use is an accessory use, that the data mining use does not create a condition that's conducive to the breeding of rodents or insects, and that finally, that the data mining equipment is personal property and does not require a building permit. Thank you. I'm open for any questions.
Are there any questions of the applicant's representative?
I have a few. The sound barrier, can you bring that picture back up? Okay, so what is that constructed out of? What's the material used in that?
Joining me tonight are representatives of the ownership group. Might be able to answer that question. State your name.
So we have you come to the microphone and please state your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Joe Wimberly, and I'm 208 South 2nd, Odessa, Missouri.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the sound fence, it's a galvanized steel poles, and it's a type of it's called TPO. It's a type of it's like a rubber. It's not rubber. It's like a plastic membrane that keeps the sound inside of it.
It's like a box, a big box.
No, it's just like a solid panel with it's kind of like a it's not rubber, but it's like a PVC coated like membrane that goes over the galvanized post.
And there's two of those? Two of those?
There's
built?
multiple panels that surround well, basically 3 sides, and
Oh, you built this around the,
it's
Containers.
around the containers.
okay,
So it's what we do pretty much at all of our sites.
okay. And I'm gonna ask, did you have a permit to build the
Well,
walls?
we set concrete blocks. They're just poured blocks, and then it attaches to that. So they're not actually in the ground or anything like that.
So no building permit and no,
No, ma'am.
Okay.
And to,
And you've run electricity to these containers and the containers
Yeah, from the transformer to the containers.
and no permits for any of that?
No, ma'am.
Mike,
I think it's important to ask though, if a permit is required, what sort of
I
permit-
understand your argument.
What sort of permit would be required for the substation to continue to develop the substation?
I don't
I don't
think you're
think
here
so.
to ask me questions, are
I don't
you?
think there's a- I don't think a look at is needed for.
Yeah, I know that's your opinion. I gotcha. Yeah. Okay, and I've got another question. If Joe wants to sit down and hang out, but do you want me just to go through my questions?
Sure, sure.
Okay. You went through some statistics and they weren't up on your PowerPoint. The 5 megawatts per month, could you go back through those? Like what you use and the tax
Yeah.
generated? I didn't get them written down.
Yeah, sure. So this was information that was provided to me by Joe
Uh-huh.
prior to the hearing. He asked that they pull up the most recent 2 months worth of electrical bills. And so he has electric bills just like anybody else on the amount of electricity that's used. And then he gave me the tax totals. It was like $8,500 one month, and then he's approaching $10,000, I think, in the most recent month. And that's based off of approximately 4 to 5 megawatts worth of electricity usage for that time period.
Okay, and you said 4 to 5 megawatts a month is about what a small town would use.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is anybody here from the co-op? I'm curious on the consumption, the total consumption or production. It could be looked at either way that substation produces.
I don't think there's a representative.
Okay. And the 8,500 per month in tax, is that local, state, or that's a total tax? When you pay your utility bill,
Yeah. when
of
we
that
pay-
bill, $8,500 is tax.
Yes, ma'am. So, and I don't know what percentage of that is the county, but
That's your total. So state, local,
Uh-huh.
federal.
yeah, I think,
Okay.
I think it's like 3.5% maybe of that.
Okay. Of the 8,500.
So is 8,500 your tax? Is that your utility bill a month?
That's the straight tax on the bill.
That's not the bill.
That's not the bill, that's the
No,
tax.
that's the tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your bill is probably about 90 grand a month. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably 90 to 100.
Okay.
I don't believe there are any,
Actually, I probably have it.
I don't
That's
believe
all
that
right.
there are any city taxes collected here, so that those taxes would just be state and county
State and county.
because we're in unincorporated.
I'm pretty
Gotcha.
sure the majority of it's county tax.
Probably state. It's probably state and federal. No, right. Yeah, it's a utility, so it's probably just state and federal taxes. Like on a phone, my utility bill, my Evergy bill, I think it's just state and federal, but that's okay. I'm just kind of curious. And no employees. I'm gonna just keep going to my next questions. No employees on the property?
Uh,
Sorry. No, are there any employees on the property?
No.
Totally unmanned facility? I'm just kind of curious.
I will let Joe elaborate if I'm
Okay.
wrong, but I believe he has employees that do help him maintain the equipment. If something
Okay,
goes down, they have to go in and fix it, they
Right.
repair it, but no permanent employees that would show up on a daily basis.
okay, gotcha. And you guys made some explanation about how this is very important to the utility, to the co-op, that it helps them manage the load. How does this help them manage the load in a way that they weren't managing it the day before you showed up?
So basically, we manage the load by, we consistently use like a 90% power factor. So like, for instance, day before yesterday, two of our co-op sites had us shut down for about 4 hours because of that extreme heat. And so just by us running consistent or shutting down on like maybe where they think it's going to be the hottest day of the month, I mean, we can save them thousands. Like, we shut down like the month before, and they said that we saved them a little over $40,000 by, shutting down for a few hours. So,
Because they didn't have to buy power from somebody else, or?
well, they buy power from the same place. It's kind of like whatever the highest demand.
Oh, I
for that
gotcha. Okay.
day is what they're going to be charged.
So you
up
have the
for.
ability to just shut down, makes you a good client or good customer.
Well, yeah, we try to be helpful with them, and
Okay.
we deal with, 7 different residential co-ops. So,
Okay. But your lease doesn't have anything, does it have anything that stipulates that,
some of them do,
that
not
you,
all of them, but
Uh-huh.
some of them, if they ask us to shut down, even if it's not in the lease, we try to
okay.
be
Gotcha.
helpful.
And I would like to just elaborate a little bit on that based on what I know of the co-op industry. There are other industrial users that are huge electricity producers, but they can't just flip a switch and stop their electricity.
Right.
That makes this solution unique.
Yeah,
for
Walmart
these
can't
co-ops.
just flip a switch,
Right.
right? A hospital can't just flip a switch. Okay, another question about, you said you were kind of talking in general about rural co-ops and you mentioned Ameren and that they subcontract. But this is not a subcontract. You're just a land lease, right?
Yeah, in that statement, what I meant was, we have examples of Ameren, UE,
Yeah.
who themselves have co-located Bitcoin mining adjacent to power production and distribution facilities. And so that's an instance where a utility provider themselves have entered into the Bitcoin mining space
Yeah.
as a co-location solution.
They diversified, just like if they had diversified into
Right.
manufacturing cars or
Right.
anything else.
And in this
Okay.
particular instance, the rural electric co-op that we're talking about here, they don't have that capability. They're not a big corporation like Ameren. And so they have contracted through lease, by leasing land and bringing this service to their co-located substation that allows them to basically achieve the same result that Ameren is doing elsewhere.
Right, yeah, but this is not a subcontract is what I'm saying. It's a land
We are
lease.
the subcontract, meaning that the utility provider themselves are not providing the Bitcoin services. That was leased, that obligation was leased to us. We are the subcontractor in that context, if that makes sense. We are the contractor or subcontractor, whatever you want to.
So they hired you to manufacture Bitcoin on their property,
They are leasing land to us for that specific.
right? So
purpose.
they did not hire you to manufacture Bitcoin. They merely provided you with a land lease.
They provided us with a land lease that calls for rent payments. Yes.
Right, and that's it. That's the extent of the partnership.
Right.
It's a land lease. Okay,
That's my
thank you. That handles my questions
Okay, thank you.
so far.
You have some questions?
Mostly just, so the sound barrier was it constructed post the stop order or pre-stop order?
I believe it was post. The stop work order was out in May. I don't know when you started. Post.
Post.
And again, it was done to mitigate what we feel was the main issue here, which is the potential noise, which even though we weren't cited for, we believe that was a complaint-driven process as to why we're here tonight. And even though we didn't stop operations, because again, we're allowed to continue operations while the appeal is pending, we want to demonstrate that we want to, good faith, that we want to be good neighbors. And so we undertook mitigation efforts to kind of reduce what we perceive to be probably the most likely cause of insurance.
Okay. And I guess just the question you had specifically, so you weren't contracted, nor is the power cooperative. Your argument was that this is a additional utility use to assist the cooperative. There's no supporting documentation with cooperative that that's what they're using it for, anything like that.
Well, there are the news articles that talk about Ameren and other locations
Right.
co-locating these uses.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But there's no stated thing from the power cooperative that this is a utility use for us to help with this
No.
utility. Okay.
No, this is. We're here tonight on behalf of other.
That's totally fine. Yeah. That's my question.
You have any questions, Bud? Okay, more. Okay, thank you. We may call you back up if, you know. Opposite? Do we do it? That is like opposite. Wireless. I need to get that. There we go. Okay. Does staff have anything more to add at this point?
No, sir.
Like the site noise, the noise ordinance only applies to industrial zoning. But we could not cite noise violation, because it's not on industrial.
And just to clarify, this is just a transmission station. They're not producing any energy out there. This is just a substation. That's what, on that is more of a clarification. So we'll have anyone in the audience that wants to come up and speak for or against the application. And we'll step up to the microphone. So please state your name and address.
My name is John Smedley and my address is Platte Woods, Missouri. I'm the executor for all the Smedley family trusts in this property. My occupation is Mayor Platte Woods. I'm also very familiar with zoning adjustments and zoning boards. And we would like to recommend that we deny the application for the permit.
Yeah, I need to. As soon as he stops talking, we're going to get that. I'm going to need your specific address, just not Platte Woods.
7210 Northwest Prairie View Road.
Platte Woods, Missouri.
Platte Woods.
Okay. And then please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
For brevity, the staff did a great job in summary. I just got 6 points because I don't want to drag this out till Friday. I guess the key point is it appears that there was a blatant violation of zoning, coding, and things like that. It also appears, from what I've seen and had pictures, that even though they continue to operate the Bitcoin mining, they continue to do construction, which I think is a vagrant violation of the stop order. In terms of the opportunity to submit reasons why I want to decline it, I submitted pictures. It's a blight. They also built the structure around it, but the noise is terrible. We've been the property owners since the 60s in that area. We've been very supportive of the county's master build-out plan for high-density, single-family dwelling. This is definitely going to degrade the value of the properties for that. It's not following the master plan. So we do not feel that this is in the best interest of the adjoining residents, which I had contacted 10 to make sure that they were aware of this. Also, with the photos of the blight and all that, I also submitted a list of 10 items from public safety to noise to fire hazards, as we've seen with a lot of other utilities where things aren't done right. This is the rural area. They grow up in the fall and there's a lot of things. It's also going to affect the public service. The roads aren't set up for around down Humphreys Road to handle this kind of freight and load and things like that. So there's a whole lot of county type things that I think need to be considered when you want to look at granting this appeal, or furthermore, if it ever comes up for zoning, that I think it would not be the best interest of the city. I'd also like to suggest that the county stay with the master plan. It's been a great plan. As an elected official in the county, we try to do a very good job to keep the county very livable and keep our zoning the way we want it to be. And there's a plan for this, and we'd just like it to stay in that venue.
Quick question. I'm guessing you own some land around this area, just to
Yes.
clarify.
Right next door.
Okay,
He owns to the north and to the east.
okay.
Right.
Are there questions of this presenter? Thank you.
Thank you.
The floor is open if somebody wants to. Please state your name and address.
My name is Karen Wiley Works. I live in Humboldt, Kansas, 720 Street in Humboldt, Kansas, and I own property just across the river.
So let me get you sworn in, please.
Oh, yes,
Okay, so please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I just want to say I'm counting on the zoning board to keep this agricultural. I mean, I know that it's important that the whole area, I don't live close to this, but I do have that farm really there. It's been agriculture for forever, in our family for over 100 years. And I'm really counting on the zoning board to continue to keep that agriculture and following the rules and not bending them for this company or anybody else. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address.
Janelle Houston and 19205 Humphreys Road, Platte City, Missouri 64079.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So we live kind of across the road and up on a hill a little bit from the Bitcoin farm. And it has made it so we have gone from outside all day, every day, to we hate our lives and feel like we can't leave the house. It is so loud. It is so obnoxious. And the tarps that they have put up in like the past week, the sound, barrier, I feel like it's about like if I do this, I mean, you can still hear me. It really has made no difference. One of the loudest days we had was in the past week, and we had a whole bunch of friends over, and it was super embarrassing because it's just like, and then half of them are then stressed out because they say that like it can be radiation, all this stuff also, which I don't know if there's studies to all of that. But so now our friends make it seem like they don't even want to come to our house. I have 4 boys and we spend a majority of our time outside. I've gained like 10 pounds in the past 3 months because we can't even go outside. It's miserable. I feel like it almost is like all I can think of is they talk about like the tinnitus stuff that people get where they just have that constant ring in their ear. It's like you walk outside and it's just, and it's in the middle of the night. It's whenever. There's a few times here and there where you might not hear something because the wind's blowing the opposite direction, but it's miserable. And we're all miserable. My boys, like, they don't want to. One of the first times we noticed it, they came screaming in. They thought the tornado sirens were going off. It's not quiet. It's obnoxiously loud. And it has changed our lives like dramatically in a negative way. And then we talk about, my boys, they're not super old, but as they get older, they want to get goats, they want to get cows. And, we have all these plans that we might do in the future. But what are these noises going to do for the animals? If it's driving me crazy and I don't want to be outside, can I put an animal through the same stress as that, like 24/7? They don't get to come inside to get away from it. So I just don't know what to do. And, I was told at one point that there was a stop order and they weren't supposed to be working, and they've worked nonstop. They've had trucks out there, Platte Plays that's been in and out. I mean, they've never stopped. They just go, go, go. I think on June 6th, I went down and took pictures and they were up wiring things up on top of the containers. I mean, it's never stopped. It just keeps going. And I fear for the future. If they're doing all this and they're not supposed to be, they've done nothing for it. What are they going to continue doing? How much louder is it going to get? How much louder is it going to get even when it hits winter and the trees are gone and there's nothing to like dampen the sound of what we have now? I mean, it's obnoxiously loud now, and it's just going to probably triple, at least double. That's all I have. I just really want to be able to go back outside and enjoy my life again.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Stephen Daly, and I live at 19235 Humphreys Road, Platte City, Missouri, 64079. And we
Please
happen-
raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. So we're, my wife and I are Janelle's neighbor. So we're even closer to the Bit Farm than she is. And I didn't know what was going on until she'd mentioned. I knew something was going on, but I didn't know what it was. I'm not as observant, but I thought it was odd to me, but I thought it was grain elevators like you hear sometimes in the fall of the year, miles away. You can hear them drying their grain. That's what it sounded like to me. And I thought, well, maybe they're just, I don't know. Maybe the grain's still wet in the summertime. But then I was made aware of what the sound was, and that's exactly what it is. And I'm, like I said, my property's catty cornered. Probably my property is one of the closest pieces of property there. So I had actually, I think it's a question, maybe more for. Okay, I'll ask the question, but so I didn't know really what a Bitcoin farm was, probably like some others. And so I did, like everybody else, Googled it to try to learn more about it. And the definition I found for what a bit farm is, I found on fidelity.com. And it talked about cryptic mining is the crucial action responsible for the success of some blockchains like Bitcoin. Crypto mining and data centers, there's a subsection called crypto mining and data centers fast facts, which is exactly what I wanted to see. Both crypto mining and data centers are large, temperature-controlled warehouses filled with computers, and both are energy intensive. Data centers, however, support multiple commercial uses such as e-commerce and cloud computing. They support multiple businesses and customers. Crypto mining, on the other hand, it defines as they are directed solely to crypto mining and support only the owners of the crypto mine. Crypto farms have had or have hundreds of computers running 24/7, which produce a lot of heat and requires lots of cooling. That's what we've talked about tonight. So my question is, if a purpose of the Bitcoin farm is to help manage electrical usage, power, but some of it also benefits directly the Bitcoin farm itself. According to this definition, for their own uses. My question is, what percentage of this Bitcoin farm goes to managing power, and what percentage goes toward their own benefit? So you can ask that question to them. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Please state your name and address.
David Barth, 7055 Northwest Scenic Drive, Parkville, Missouri.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I would just say I do own property there. I own the land that is directly along the driveway. They had a picture up there earlier, of the station. I've owned that property a long time. I owned it when the power station, I'll call it a station, but booster, whatever you want to call it, met with them several times. They actually needed an easement, to my memory. I think it was 20 years ago, 18, something like that. And at the time, I'm a big handshake guy. I'm a developer here. I've, lived here my whole life in the county. And, we shook hands at the time. And I just said, at the time, subleasing was going on, different places, cell towers, that kind of stuff. And so, but shook hands, no subleases, because that was a big deal. Sure, they got their easement. The neighbors on the other side, they had to give up the ground. I think it was at the time. And so we kind of feel like we've been had. I don't care that it's 20 years later and those people are retired probably that did that, but we still live there and own this property. And so, I'm disappointed in that. The one thing I'd state as far as on how this has progressed into where we're at now is, we're there all the time. And, they started putting a trailer and a trailer and a trailer. And, the only thing I don't like, and again, I respect the private business and have nothing against them whatsoever that way. They're just trying to, run a business and have a small business. The problem is that, like I've probably tried to call 20 times to the power stations, whether that's Platte Clay, and don't think I don't know these people, and everybody's ducking and covering. And that's what's happening because they know they're in trouble and they've subleased to something that's a private business. And we just think it's wrong. We all do here. I don't have to say that. We all know that. So, but the disappointment is that, in the permitting, I'm used to coming and getting a permit. You have a plan, you get together, you have pre-meetings. We've done this, hundreds of times. And this is just a bunch of trailers. And then it gets kind of tricky how some of the wordage was here. And I'm not knocking anybody, I'm really not, but I catch on real quick when I start hearing, oh, but it was a temporary wall now that we're in a stop order, but we're still building sound barriers in the stop order, which to me is completely wrong. I mean, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but to me, that makes no sense if you had a stop order, but then they use the word temporary because they can't say they're putting a permanent sound structure because they know that needs a permit. And so, we're just going round and round. And if you really looked at it, it's a bunch of trailers sitting down here, I'm not trying to knock Bitcoin or, drilling, but, how long is this going to last? And so, I just kept trying to figure out what I wanted to write down. And I just have to keep writing down 24/7. I mean, what would I ever do? I mean, I take real pride in trying to figure out what's the highest and best use for this land. And that changes over time. Well, what would I do next door? He's got a gorgeous piece. We never talked. I thought about calling him for the last 20 years saying, hey, you ever want to sell that beautiful 40 acres or whatever it is there? Well, I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't. Even if one of the kids wanted to build there. Could you imagine? And so I keep coming back to that same thing I was writing down, 24/7, 24/7. And then we're supposed to be excited when someone's going to turn it off for 4 hours to help the power company. Well, I own a kids gym. My bills are $8,000 a month of power. I could shut my kids' gym down. I just don't see it much different. So I just think the system of how they have, not permitted, it's a bunch of trailers. Now they're still going, putting a temporary wall around. I respect that they're just trying to make money. But we feel like we've also been sold out to power company. And I think that's really wrong. And, we take real pride. We've invested a lot of money in those areas. It's beautiful down there by the Platte River. And so, it's just changes everything. And so, I permitted and built a fire tower is what we call it up the street. And I was at the fire tower. I'm like, half a mile. I couldn't believe I could hear it from there. And this is with the lease on. So, I'm just concerned. And I think this is really, really wrong. And, what is this, how they were just saying there? What's the next temporary? I'm a long-term player here too, and I'm just disappointed. And so not from here, but I'm disappointed on how this continued on and keeps getting modified with a stop order in and just, but again, I just go back to, if you live by that, I'm not against growth, quality. I'm a big raise the bar. But this one, everything's 10. It's just thought of after. And so I just think it's a bad plan. So definitely have to say I'm against it 100%. Would hope to be denied.
I have a question, not necessarily for you, David, but just to clarify, there's nobody here from the co-op, right?
Which is very disappointing.
Okay.
And how many times I've tried to contact them.
Okay, just checking. I wanted to make sure we heard from them if they were here.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And just to clarify, you might just explain how the stop order works. That, I mean, they're still doing what they're doing because they're in an appeal status, just so there's no misconception.
They filed an appeal. There is that language in that says it stops any action. They have taken that to, they've interpreted that to mean they can continue operating until the matter is adjudicated,
Which is
what we're here
what we're
tonight.
here
to
for
do.
tonight.
Does it allow further construction?
That's an open question. I will, full disclosure, I did have one meeting with him. They talked about the noise and so forth, and they made claims, oh, we can cut the noise by 40%, this, that, and the other. I told them they could cut it by 100% by turning them off. But I would, if they put up something to help in the meantime, I was aware that they might be, I think they talked about Jersey barriers or something to deal with some of the noise in the near term.
I have a question, and about, you had your noise ratings up. Could you remind us of what those are or show us that slide again? And if you want to go on, Chris, while he brings that up, that's fine. I just want to see those numbers one more time. Oh. I didn't know if we got a lot of paper. I didn't know if their stuff was in here. That's their. Oh, okay. I thought that was yours. Okay. Got it.
I got 4.
Thank you. I've got it.
Oh, well, I think she's found it, but if you want to have it up, do you want it up on the screen, Nelsie?
No, it's fine, but yeah, let her go ahead.
Okay, please state your name and address.
Candy Smith, 18905 Humphreys Road, Platte City, Missouri, 64079.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we own the property or a 15-acre set of property that is just to about 3/4 of a mile east of the site that we're talking about and on the opposite side of the road. So I would just like to make the point that the lawyer for Evolution Technologies said that this is just incidental to the use of the substation. So our question is, if it's just incidental, why did they run fiber along Humphreys Road? Fiber that is not available to any of the residents on Humphreys Road. My understanding is that it is only being used for the Bitcoin mining. I called all of the cable companies, none of them are servicing that. There is service, public service or provided service on the other side of Platte River, but as far as we know, our side of the river has no ability to tap into the fiber that was laid this past summer.
Which unfortunately our board wouldn't have any knowledge
No,
or control over.
The point is that they said that it was simply incidental to the substation, but they have put other infrastructure in along our property and easement that is benefiting the Bitcoin mining and not the residents of Humphreys Road.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Joyce Heisel, 20810 Humphrey Road, Platte City, Missouri.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I live directly across from Humphreys Access. In fact, when you look across Humphreys Access, across the river, that's our property. And we have animals. We have 60 head of cattle on our property. Lots of wildlife. We have dogs, a cat. I'm concerned about what's going on and what the effect might be, not only for our property value and our way of life, but what is it going to do to my animals? Is there going to be anything that might happen to them? Also, as the lady said that was just here, that fiber optic went by my house too, on the other side of the Platte River. And they're always, twice a week, they're down there in front of our house working on a new little thing that they've installed, tearing up the yard, and we don't have any use of that. We can't hook on to that fiber optic. It's not available to us. So my question is, why is all this happening to benefit one entity? And what's the long-term effect going to be on our lifestyle? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience speak for or against the application? All right. Please state your name and address.
Matt Warren, 18395 Humphreys Road, Platte City, Missouri.
Please raise your right hand.
Sorry, I got allergies.
No problem. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Whenever you rezone a property, the county knows you want to pull new water, you want to pull new electricity, you want to do anything like that. They have not done that. So to me, the scope of work has changed. It was a power company. Now we're producing Bitcoin. He's talking about heating and cooling. I would assume there's a fire hazard of some sort that has increased. They haven't pulled anything to put the fire out, potentially. It just seems to me it's kind of half-assed. They just set up some trailers, didn't do anything. I'm sorry. I'm definitely opposed.
Thank you. You step up to the microphone, please.
I had just one more thought or question. Stephen Daly, 19235.
Oh, you've been sworn in.
Okay, so the question then follows, what are the future plans if for some unfortunate reason the appeal gets approved? What's to stop growth of that facility down there to add more computers, more cooling, more energy?
I mean, the argument that they're putting forth, nothing. They're claiming they're attached, associated with public utilities, which are exempt from local regulation. So this would apply to any substation in Platte County. One could argue it apply to transmission lines. I mean, what's the difference? They make the same argument, but yeah, 5, 10, 15, if it's exempt, it's exempt.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience speak for or against the application?
Chris, I want to add something.
Sure, sure.
Because I was curious about the decibel readings, and so I've got the zoning regulations in front of me, and I just want some clarification from the staff that these decibel readings, the lowest being 39.8, 39.7, would even be in violation at certain times of the day in an industrial area. Because I see that those are, am I reading that right, Daniel? I'm looking for some clarification, even if this was an industrial area. I think it's incumbent upon us to understand, to the degree that.
Yeah, I mean, it said no, you can measure that the office environment. It exceeds one of those decibel ratings.
Okay. Okay. Even if this was industrial.
From a free zone, it would still be in violation.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's not Arrowhead Stadium on a playoff day, but it's still not where you can.
Question.
Please step up to the microphone.
We're taking their
Right,
numbers.
that's true.
And I'm not sure that's wise. Sorry. I mean, shouldn't we bring in an independent if this is going to be the issue, if the noise, and the noise is an issue, huge. why are we going to take their word for it? There was something else I was going to say, and I didn't remember it, but I might. Thanks.
I feel your pain.
Ooh. Are there any other questions or comments?
I would say one more thing, just.
Please come up to the microphone.
Sorry, Dave, Mark again, but.
Yep.
You know, when you do think about it, I mean, I do on the property right next door and across the street, but I really don't think they have the sight distance anyway. You know, I mean, when I was just thinking about that word, they're doing the decimals at the property line. Well, isn't the structures too close to my property for that zoning? I mean, even if they were approved, I mean, I'd just
Yeah,
file
well,
suit the
Jason
next
brought
day.
up that earlier, that ag zoning, they're setback that they don't
So I mean,
currently meet.
it just seems like their planning was backwards, but I just file a complaint the next day again. Since
They're arguing that they're not structures.
infringes.
They're arguing that they're not structures. We arguing they are structures that do need to be setbacks.
Chris, I'd like to make a motion.
Well, I think we're gonna have
If you're,
there's a couple more comments.
All I want to do is just clarify, the application is submitted by the applicant. We always make the motion in the affirmative. So the motion needs to be to accept the appeal, which in essence would overturn the stop order. So a yes
That makes
vote,
sense.
a yes
Yeah,
vote,
so a yes vote would mean you're agreeing with the appeal.
yeah, I know,
and a no vote
Yeah.
is stay, stop order is correct.
And our focus is just what's in the violation order tonight. So. As far as that goes. So is there any other comments? So do we have a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we deny the appeal.
I think it would be in the positive, so you would.
We, okay.
Yep.
You just, that's what I was gonna do originally, but then you talked me out. But
So let's start over. So
Okay.
do we have a motion?
to,
Grant the appeal. Grant the appeal.
So
okay,
why don't you,
they're
Verbalize that.
appealing.
correct, that's just the way the motion's
That's the
made.
way you make the motion. And if
Okay.
you vote yes, you are granting the appeal. If you vote no, you are saying the stop order stands.
Okay, I make a motion, we grant the appeal.
Yeah, all motions have to be in.
Okay, we grant the appeal.
So your motion is
Grant the appeal.
grant the appeal. We have a motion that I think we all understand. Do we have a second
Second.
on that? Any other discussion? All those in favor of the appeal, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 4-0, the appeal does not pass. Our next item is the approval of minutes from our last meeting. Does anybody have any corrections or changes?
I move the accept the meetings as written.
Second,
Second, any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
4-4. Okay, do we have other business?
Only other business I have, our next meeting, regularly scheduled meeting is November the 6th, 6 PM in this room. As of now, I haven't had any applications.
other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Stop order goes into effect.
Yes, stop order is-
And then they know that.
yes.
Then go shut it down. Right.
I say we stand adjourned.
Right. Stop.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Yeah. To approve the minutes and Brian
She seconded.
and I seconded.